Now we need to work on and expedite these alternative fibers. Forests are already being squeezed. As more people move from plastic to paper, it's going to continue to be worse.
Currently, about 3 billion trees are cut every year to go into packaging, just into packaging. I'm not talking about tissue and other paper.
We'll hopefully be at a point someday where we have a recyclable, home compostable, alternative fiber inclusive pine.
Hello, Justin.
Hello.
Let's just begin by introducing yourself and your role at Ben & Jerry's.
Sure. So I'm the global packaging manager at Ben & Jerry's. I've been a packaging engineer for probably about 10 years now, and have been at Ben & Jerry's for about 4 years now. And now as the manager, I'm sort of leading the roadmap. Like what are we doing with our packaging at Ben & Jerry's?
Why is it important to protect forests now?
What gives us the right to cut down trees, especially ancient and endangered ones? I think the thing that most of us can agree with is the impact that trees have with our current climate crisis. So things like biodiversity and carbon sequestration. For example, like trees are a crucial element of maintaining those and sort of having any hope at preventing catastrophic climate change.
I expect that there was a point in your life when these issues of climate change, biodiversity, that you had an aha moment. So what was that aha moment?
I don't know if it was an epiphany or enough outside sort of input to help convey the fact that everything we consume in life is on this one-way journey many times. If things are going into the landfill, which many things still are, that when you throw that thing away, you've time capsuled that forever.
So Ben & Jerry's, you are responsible for the range of packaging, from that front-facing famous ice cream tub right through to probably the cardboard boxes that things get shipped in that nobody ever sees. They come in the back of the store. So tell me what your goal is around sustainability, particularly on paper, and how next generation alternatives might fit into that journey.
So we weren't focused a lot on paper before our journey with Canopy. So we were and still are heavily focused on moving to bio-based and compostable alternatives to plastic where we have them. We sort of thought we would be good once we achieved that. I think what we realized is that's not the case, especially as more companies are trying to move away from plastic, and what typically ends up being the first material to take its place is paper. I'm not sure where we're going to get all this extra paper. And I think we're already at a moment where forests are being strained and squeezed. And so if demand increases that much more, it's going to be extremely problematic. So working on recycled fibers and alternative fibers is going to be a key element to create that additional sort of fiber stream.
What inspired you to join Canopy's Pack for Good initiative, and what kind of support does working with Canopy provide for Ben & Jerry's?
One of the things that's common throughout the packaging industry, the paper community, is as long as you have forest certification, FSC, PEFC even, you're good. That's sort of like, you're sustainable. It's good sourcing. Let's focus on plastics, whatever else we want to focus on. The common language in the industry is that most of those certified forests are sort of tree plantations. We're not cutting down ancient and endangered forests. And what I've come to learn is, one, we still are cutting down quite a bit of ancient endangered forests, which is way more than the zero that we need to be doing. And then additionally, the idea of alternative fibers. I was familiar with them. People talk about hemp and some of these other fibers that are out there, and the common message is, They're still not ready for prime time. The mills can't handle them. They can't work with them. But what I've learned through the connections that the Canopy team has established with folks throughout the industry is that there are a lot of technologies that are making good headway. And it's sort of up to us to try to expedite that. One last thing is just the Canopy knowledge base. They're not just people off the street who want to save trees. These are experts, technology experts who know not only what's actually happening with forests and in that industry, but also new and exciting technologies that are being developed for things like alternative fibers.
How does Next Gen fit into Ben & Jerry's overarching roadmap, as you call it?
We appreciate recycled fiber. I think for cartons, paperboard cartons, for example, that we've been working towards or trying to move to recycled fiber. But for our pints, I think especially because of the food contact element, there never was a major drive. I mean, we know alternative fibers exist, but there wasn't much of a demand or drive. Now we have that says, yes, now we need to work on and expedite these alternative fibers. We'll hopefully be at a point someday where we have a recyclable, home compostable, alternative fiber inclusive pint that we can sell to our fans.
Is my mic working? Can people hear me at the back there? I'm going to do a quick run on, who is Canopy and why we do this kind of work with brands. We're not a consulting firm. We don't charge anybody any money to work with them. We raise our money elsewhere, and then we help brands to implement policies that help save ancient and endangered forests, because we're an environmental group at heart. So we don't work with the individual consumers. It's very difficult to change 1 billion people's buying habits. Any of you have teenagers here? Yeah? Okay. Individuals that love you don't always do what you want them to do. So it's pretty hard to get people who don't love you and don't care about you to do something that changes their behavior. So instead, we're focused more on, the few thousand people who make decisions on behalf of millions and billions of people. The reason, just foundationally, we do this because when you took your first breath as a baby, when you were born, you started your relationship with forests. We have lost 80% of the world's what's called frontier forests, large intact forests. Frontier intact forests are not renewable because, yes, you can regrow a tree. Let's say in 10 years you can grow a eucalyptus tree in a plantation, sure. But the Sumatran tiger that used to live in the forest where that eucalyptus plantation now exists, that is not a renewable resource. You can't replant a Sumatran tiger if it goes extinct any more than you can any other species once it's gone extinct. Forests are not renewable. Trees can be. Don't confuse the two things. According to the United Nations and some of the global targets, forests will be about 25 to 30% of the climate solution. That's because especially intact forests are 40 times more effective at storing carbon than plantation forests are. And currently about 3 billion trees are cut every year to go into packaging. We should be able to develop a cellulose base for virgin fiber aside from just trees. And that's in order that we don't just burden shift from plastics onto forests. Actually, the LCAs don't prove that shifting from plastics to paper is always better. Sometimes it's worse. That's not me saying I want you to use more plastic. That's me just saying we need to have really holistic solutions. There are a range of alternative fibers that can be utilized for paper. There's already about 11 million tons of paper made with agricultural fiber on the market today. Most of that is produced in China. The other, about 40% of it is produced in India, and it's made from bamboo, bagasse, cereal straws like wheat straw. The technologies for closed loop, low chemistry, vastly reduced water use and chemical use, those technologies are emerging and starting to become commercially viable. Those of you who are nervous about me saying we need to produce 30 million or 60 million tons of something in the next decade, and that seems impossible, actually the paper industry sector has already done this before, several times. In 1990, the world added over 30 million tons of recycled paper capacity. And then the following decade, it was over 50 million tons, and then over 60 million tons. So this sector has actually shifted dramatically in a decade over and over and over again. And so this coming decade, we'll see the shift from majority virgin fiber production into the alternative fibers that have a lower carbon footprint. We can do it, but it's going to take a partnership amongst multiple brands to pull through that kind of volume of paper and packaging fiber.
So how is Ben & Jerry's, like, how does this fit into our model, what we're doing? The pint is our biggest volume. We do have a few other packaging formats, but since this is most of what we produce, what we're focusing on, and it uses a lot of virgin fiber. Because we are food contact, recycled fiber isn't quite as easy, but alternatives to virgin wood pulp can be things like wheat straw, hemp, oat straw. And in many cases, these are agricultural residues that already exist, which is a key bit. We don't want to cut down forests to make room for agricultural crops to then grow to make this. The only thing I would close with is just like a reminder to folks out there and folks that are watching this, like, we can't do this alone. The only way these solutions will truly succeed is industry-wide partnership or multiple companies participating in these options to scale them and hopefully commoditize them where it's affordable for everyone.